Yo, what's going on, YouTube, and welcome back to Goal Line Hockey. It's Kevin Forte, and today we are taking a look at the New York Islanders going into this season. We haven't talked about the Islanders much, but I have some genuine concerns about the Islanders, as recently, a couple weeks ago, they did a poll to see the fan base meter, like how optimistic are fans about their team, and the Islanders finished pretty much dead last. Actually, they did finish dead last. And I want to talk about some of the reasons why that might be. And we're going to discuss that today. So, the New York Islanders finished last season fairly good in the sense of they were able to get to the first round of the playoffs. They ultimately fell short, but they were able to make the playoffs, and everyone's maybe masking the fact that, yeah, they got to the playoffs, but they did not play well. They honestly, looking back, probably should have won that series. Carolina, yes, they went on a little run there, but Carolina was injured. They were injured. They lost a lot of guys. Max Pacioretty wasn't there. Andrei Svechnikov was hurt. Other guys got hurt throughout the series, I remember, like Teuvo Teravainen and whoever else. The Islanders should have been able to win that series, but they didn't. And the reason for that is lack of goal scoring, and I hate to say it, a little bit of a defensive depth issue. And I normally wouldn't say that about the Islanders because their defense has been good for the last couple of years, but last year was a little disappointing. Noah Dobson is a very good offensive defenseman, but he had some breakdowns. He's still got some growing pains. Same thing for Alexander Romanov, who I think was the most disappointing defenseman for the Islanders last year. He's a guy that I really expected to see a little bit more from, and it just didn't work out. And he was the Islanders' big addition to the team last summer. So, there was that sense that maybe the Islanders, was that the right move, bringing in Romanov? I still think it's still to be determined. The verdict's still out on that. But Romanov did not have a great season. We saw a little bit of Scott Mayfield, Sebastian Aho, and Samuel Bolduc, who I think is a very promising young prospect. And I think he's ultimately going to take away the role of, he might be the guy that beats out Alexander Romanov on the Islanders defense in the future. I'm really that high on him. He's only 22 years old. He's a big defenseman, and he plays the role of what Romanov is, left shot defenseman. And I think, to be honest with you, I think he's going to be better than Alexander Romanov. As crazy as that is, I think that's the truth here. But then comes the issue with the Islanders' offense. And that's always been an issue for the Islanders. There's a team that does not play offense for some reason. They do not score goals. They don't have the scoring guy to do that. And that's really the issue here. Yes, you bring in Bo Horvat last year, and that was a huge addition. But the sentiment was, even after they brought in Horvat and Romanov last year, they still needed more. Because in this Metropolitan Division, you have to be one of those top teams in the NHL to get to the playoffs in this division. That's how deep and talented it is. And, you look at those other teams, the top three right now, Carolina, the Rangers, and the Devils. The Islanders, Pittsburgh, Washington, they all kind of fall into their own category. And that's concerning because if there's only potentially 2 wildcard spots and the Atlantic is getting better and there's half your own division is going to be disappointed if 2 of the Metro teams get in. There's just a lot of uncertainty there. And I think for the Islanders, when you stack up their roster against teams like Ottawa, Buffalo, even Detroit, there is not that big of a gap like there might have been maybe 2 or 3 years ago. And that's the difference for the Islanders between this year and the last 2 years and, going back years 3, 4, and 5 ago, right before the pandemic. It was a different league. And the Islanders are realizing that, yes, teams like Pittsburgh and Washington are falling more to the middle of the pack, which is good. But, again, other teams will come up. And that's kind of why I already made my video talking about where I think the Islanders will finish in my division preview. But this does not really look like a playoff team to me. And I love Ilya Sorokin and Semyon Varlamov. That goaltending has to be good again if they want even a chance to get back to the playoffs. But there's just not enough there. And hopefully we're able to see a little bit more from this team. I think the coaching staff with Lane Lambert, I really like Lane Lambert, but the Islanders' confidence meter is so low because we just expect more. We expect more from the Islanders, especially when there's teams in your division that are getting better every year, and they were better than you last year, and they made additions in the offseason, and that's the thing. And people are kind of saying, oh well, the Islanders' move last year was bringing in Bo Horvat. So they didn't need to do anything in the summer, and that's just BS because even with Bo Horvat, they couldn't win a round against a depleted Hurricanes team, so they had to add more despite Horvat being there. They were just catching up back to where they should have been instead of actually adding to be better to the point where they could win a round in the playoffs. So just because they got better at the deadline didn't mean they still didn't need to add more. There was still more that needed to be done that the Islanders just didn't do. And the fact they brought in Carson Kuhlman this summer and Julien Gauthier, that's all great and dandy, but that's not going to make the Islanders that much better of a team where I could confidently say they are a playoff team this year. So I want to know what you guys think down below. Do you guys think the Islanders are going to be a playoff team in 2024? I'm not very confident right now. I want to see what happens on the ice, and maybe things just work out and things gel. Lane Lambert's starting to get a grip on this team. He's now been there for a little while. He's coming out of that first year kind of hump. So we'll see what happens, but I want to know your guys' thoughts down below. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.